So hey Mickey, welcome back to Viva Latina. I'm Soham Shah, the president and founder, and in this video we're going to go over verbs which we see in the Vocabulary 2 Regional Study Guide. We're going to break this segment into 3 different videos. The first video will go through 1/3 of the segment, and then we'll move on until we finish verbs altogether. So our first verb is absum ab esse, a fui a futurus. So this, if you can tell, is a compound verb of sum. It's ab and sum. So a great way to translate compound verbs, if you don't want to memorize all of them, is to take the base verb, which is sum, which means to be, and take the preposition and translate it after the verb. So for this case, it would be to be away. So what does it mean when someone's away? Well, that means you're absent. So one definition is to be absent, or a more literal definition is to be away. But one more thing I want to look at are the principal parts here. Notice how it's absum, then ab esse. You lose the B in a futuri. There is nothing called ab fui. It is a fui and a futurus. So you tend to see this a lot in compounds of sum, may it be absum or anything else. That's why it's really important to know your principal parts. You just can't play the pattern game sometimes with these compound verbs. So our next verb is ad sum, ad esse, ad fui, ad futurus. Again, let's use that little quick trick. To be to. So when you are to, it basically means you are present there. You are here. So one literal definition is to be here, and another one is to be present. So ideally, absum and adsum are quite literally antonyms. One means to be absent, and one means to be present. This is a common Kurtamen question in which they ask you to differentiate between absum and adsum. So make sure you know the difference, and make sure pay attention to the principal parts. In this case, the third principal part actually does have the D. It is not afui. We know afui is actually the absum part, not the adsum part. So next, we have a repetition of another word which we saw in our Vocabulary 1 Regional Study Guide. Amito, amitere, amisi, amisus. Again, this is another compound verb with mito, and it basically means to let loose. And then we have ascendo, ascendere, ascendi, ascensus. I want to pay attention on the ascendi and the ascensus. Remember about it's not always going to be a simple pattern. It's not ascendus, it's ascensus, the sus in the back. And this basically means to climb. A good derivative for this word is ascend. That's why you can really figure out the climbing part of this word. Then we have audeo, audere, aususum. Well, this is our first instance of a verb which is semi-deponent. We will learn what deponent verbs are later in this video, but for now, semi-deponents are verbs which are some part of the verb is passive. So we're here, we have this being passive, and the other part of the verb is active. So this part is active, and this part is passive. There are many different semi-deponent verbs which will sometimes come again in the regional form test. But for now, at least know that audeo means to dare, and it's semi-deponent. Then we have kaido, kaidere, kekidi, kaisus, meaning to cut, kill, or strike. Again, I want to remind you that kado has the same third principal part of kekidi, so make sure you're able to differentiate between the context of what the verb means in a given context. Then we have claudo, claudere, clausi, clausus, meaning to shut or to close. Again, look at the clausi, it's not cloudy. That's why it's really important to know your principal parts. And clausus over here. Now, we have coepi, coepisse, and coeptus. I'm not going to dive really deep into the grammar, but all you need to know that this verb is a defective verb. And this verb basically means to begin. You will learn what a defective verb is later in your journey in Latin, but for now, understand that coepi means to begin. Now we have cogito, which is a first conjugation verb, and it basically means to think. Cognosco, cognoscere, cognovi, cognitus means to recognize or know. So remember, look at the third participle part. It doesn't really necessarily follow a normal pattern. And same with the fourth participle part. Now we do kogo, ko gere, ko egi, ko actus. This means to gather or compel. So if we remember our verb ago from Latin 1, the Vocabulary 1 Regional Study Guide, we can see how kogo is similar to ago. It's kind of like a compound. And that's why we have the ko egi over here and the ko actus. Remember, it's ago, agere, egi, actus. And you can see these last two principal parts being directly correlated into kogo, which is an easier way to remember these principal parts. It means to gather or compel. Then we have conficio, conficere, confeci, confectus, another compound word with facio. One major pattern you see in this Vocabulary 2 Regional Study Guide is there's a lot of compound verbs. And this basically means to finish. Look at the feci, you can tell that from facio, right? Then we have convoco, another first conjugation verb. It basically means to call a meeting. Then we have credo, credere, credidi, creditus. That means to believe or trust. Focus on that third principal part. Look how it's a little different. And again, that makes it third conjugation. Remember, an EO verb is usually second conjugation. And then an IO verb with an ERE is a third IO. And then an IO verb with an IRE is fourth conjugation. And then this is credo with a short E. Then we have deleo, delere, delevi, deletus, and that basically means to destroy. Then we have derideo, deridere, derisi, derisus. We can look at this as a kind of a compound of rideo. We can look at the long E indicating it to be second conjugation. And then we have the risi and the risus, which follow the third and fourth principal part of rideo, which is risi and risus. So again, you can use that main verb in this verb, rideo, in order to kind of entail what the principal parts would be. Now we have doleo, dolere, dolui, dolitus. It basically means to grieve or to be pain. Recognize the long E over here. Then we have dubito, a first conjugation verb. It basically means quite literally to doubt, or in some contexts, even to hesitate. Then we have one of the most famous verbs, just like sum in Latin, or equally more important, eo, ire, ii, itus. This is a really important verb. I really want to spend some time here. Remember, don't get this confused and don't think this is a second conjugation verb with the eo. It's not. Focus on the rest of the verb and understand that this verb means to go. So it's eo, ire, ii, itus. Then we have excito, number 1, first conjugation, and it basically means to wake up. Look how similar it looks to incito from our Vocabulary 1 review. Then we have existimo, existimare, and this is a first conjugation verb, and it basically means to think. You can see estimate kind of comes as a derivative from this. And another first conjugation verb, it basically is expecto, meaning to wait for, and you can see a good derivative of this is expect, and you can see the specto part of that in here as a main verb, the compound of ex. Then we have faveo, favere, fabi, fautus. I really want to focus on that AU over here. Look how different it is. It's F-A-U-T-U-S, not F-A-T-U-S. And then favi, A-V-I. Remember, this is not a first conjugation verb because it's an A-V-I. Look at the whole verb. It's faveo, favere. And that basically means to favor or to support. Then another important verb, really important, just like AO, is fero, fere, tuli, latus. Again, there is no pattern here. It is all just you need to understand and memorize these parts. Fero, fere, tuli, latus. Again, when you conjugate this verb, it follows the same rules, but remember it's kind of irregular. And this verb means carry. So with that being said, we covered a decent chunk of the Vocabulary 1 Verbs review. And thank you so much, and can't wait to see you in the next video.